Okay, this is the answer key video for lesson 9.4 worksheet. Okay, on number 1, so this one is already factored for us, so we're just going to set each part equal to 0. So I've got y plus 6 equal to 0 and y minus 4 equal to 0. Now I'm going to solve and get y equals negative 6 and y equals 4, and those are your two solutions. On number 2, let's go ahead and pull out a GCF. So I'm going to pull out a D, and I get D minus 8 equal to 0. So now set each factor equal to 0. So D equals 0, D minus 8 equals 0. So D equals 8. So your answers are 0 and 8. Okay, on number 3, again, set equal to 0 first. So I'm going to move this 15 over to this side right here. So I'm going to have n squared plus 2n minus 15 equals 0. So now find factors of negative 15 that get you 2. So it would be 5 and 3. And then this guy will be the negative to get the positive 2. So we get n plus 5, n minus 3 equal to 0. So n plus 5 will equal 0, and n minus 3 will equal 0. So n equals negative 5, and n equals 3. Okay, on number 4. All right, so this one is already set equal to 0. I can't pull a GCF, so I'm going to have to go ahead and make my list. 1 times 3, 1 times 6, 2 times 3. All right, let's start our inside-outsides. So we are looking for a positive negative, so we need to subtract to get to the 7. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and flip and do 3 times 1. So right here, 3 times 3 is 9. 1 times 2 is 2. And so I'm going to make that 2 negative. So here's my 3, 1, 2, 3 combo. So I've got 3b and 1b. I have a 2 and a 3 on the back side, and this is all still equal to 0. So now on the 9s on the outside, I want to make this the plus, and then on the inside there, the 2 would be negative. Okay, and then I'm going to set each part equal to 0. So 3b minus 2 equals 0, and b plus 3 equals 0. So I'm going to add the 2 over, and then divide, and then divide by 3 and get 2/3. On this one, I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 3 over and get negative 3. So my answer is 2/3 and negative 3. Okay, on this one, we're going to go ahead and set it equal to 0. So I'm going to have 25f squared minus 36 equals 0. So now I'm going to do 5f. This is different to squares, right? You got subtraction and you can square root. So 5f minus 6 and 5f plus 6. Now I'm going to set each one equal to 0. So 5f minus 6 equals 0. 5f plus 6 equals 0. So on this one, I'm going to add the 6 over and then divide and get 6/5. On this one, I'm going to subtract the 6 over and get negative 6 and divide and get negative 6/5. Okay. All right, number 6. I already set equal to 0, so I'm just looking for factors of 24 that get me negative 10. So it would be negative 4 and negative 6. So when I multiply, I get positive 24. But when I put negative 4 and negative 6 together by addition, I get negative 10. So I get x minus 4, x minus 6 equals 0. So now set each parenthesis or each factor equal to 0 and solve. And so we're going to end up with 4 and 6 when we solve them out. Okay, on number 7, we're going to go ahead and set equal to 0. We're going to have to drop that 9 into the middle. Remember, it's got to be in standard form. So 5p squared minus 9p minus 2 equals 0. All right, and I know I need a positive negative combination here. So I've got 1 times 5 and 1 times 2. Now, when I do my inside outsides, these won't work. I'm going to go ahead and have to flip one of them. So now I've got 5 times 2 is 10, 1 times 1 is 1, and I'm going to make the 10 negative to get that negative 9. So 5, 1, 1, 2 combo will work here. So I'm going to get a 5p and a 1p. I've got a 1 and 2 on the back side. And then when I'm looking here, I've got, let's see, we want the 10 negative, so I'm going to make this guy negative, and I want the 1 to be positive. So now set each part equal to 0. So 5p plus 1 equals 0. P minus 2 equals 0. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract this over, and then divide and get negative 1/5. I'm going to add the p or the 2 over and get 2. So p equals negative 1/5 and p equals 2. Okay, on number 8, first thing I'm going to do is I got to set it equal to 0. So I've got 2m squared minus 48m plus 88 equals 0. Again, I'm just moving it, and I'm going to put it right there so that it's in standard form. Now I'm going to pull a GCF of a 2 out here, and I'm going to get m squared minus 24m plus 44 set equal to 0. All right, so I'm looking for factors of 44 that get us negative 24. Okay, so I'm starting, I got 1 times 44, that won't work. 2 times 22, here we go, this will work. So since I'm a positive here, I'm going to need negative, negative. So I'm going to keep the 2 out front. I'm going to have m minus 2, m minus 22 equal to 0. Now we know that the 2 equals 0, no good, throw that out. M minus 2 equals 0, and m minus 22 equals 0. So I'm going to get m equals 2, and m equals 22. And those are going to be my 2 answers. Okay, next page. All right, so area of a rectangle. So I'm going to have x times the x plus 4, length times width, and that's going to be equal to 60. Now we need to go ahead and drop that x in because we got to get it set equal to 0 so we can factor it. So x squared plus 4x equals 60. Now subtract that 60 off and get 0. All right, so 6 and 10 kind of come into my mind right away here, and I would need my 6 to be negative so that I can get a positive 4 in the middle there. So I'm going to get x minus 6, x plus 10 equal to 0. So now again, you set each factor equal to 0 and solve. So x will equal 6 and x equals negative 10. Now again, only one of these works. You can't have a negative length. So I'm going to plug 6 in here and 6 in here. So I've got 6 centimeters by 10 centimeters is my answer. Okay, so again, 1/2 base times height on this one. So I'm going to do 1/2 x times x plus 3, and that's going to equal 20. All right, now again, we're going to deal with the half at the end. Just distribute the x to start with. So I'm going to get x squared plus 3x equals 20. Now again, get rid of this 1/2 by multiplying by the reciprocal on both sides. So that way it'll all go away. So you've got x squared plus 3x on this side, and on this right-hand side, I now have a 40. So when I set equal to 0, it'll be x squared plus 3x minus 40 equals 0. All right, so now let's go through factors. It would have to be something with a 5 and an 8, and I'm going to make my 5 negative so that I get a positive 3 in the middle there. So I've got x minus 5, x plus 8 equals 0. So I'm setting each one equal to 0 and solving. So x equals 5 and x equals negative 8. Again, you have to throw the bad guy out, can't have a negative. So up here I've got a 5 and a 5 plus 3. So I've got a 5 inches. So I got 5 inch by 8 inch is my answer. Okay. All right, number 11 here. Okay, suppose a cheetah is pouncing on an antelope that leaps with initial velocity of 19 feet per second. How long is a cheetah in the air if it lands on the antelope's hind quarter 3 feet from the ground? Okay, so don't make fun of my picture here, but let's draw a quick little picture just so you understand. Okay, so we have a cheetah. Here's my little cheetah. Whoop. Cheetah, little guy. Okay, antelope. I think they're a little bigger. Antelope. So this little cheetah here, he is pouncing and lands here. So he's landing up above, kind of. So here would be like the ground, okay? So his starting height here, your start height or your h sub 0 or your c value, right? Depends on which one, is 0. He's starting on the ground. His finishing height, what'd they say? He's landing 3 feet from. So he's 3 feet off the ground would be his finishing height, and he's pouncing on top of this antelope, okay? All right, so now you have to use the vertical motion formula. So utilize your notes there if you need to. So h equals negative 16t squared plus vt plus c. So we know he's landing 3 feet. We know his starting height is 0 feet. We know negative 16t squared. The question is how long, right? How long? So we know we're looking for t, so we're not playing anything for t, but we do have a velocity of 19 feet here. So I'm going to have plus 19t. Okay? All right. And then technically it's a plus 0 here as well. So now, first thing we're going to do is let's set equal to 0. So I've got 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 19t minus 3, because I'm moving that 3 over to the other side. Now, again, keep this a value, or this first one, positive if you can. So what I'm going to do right away here is I'm just going to pull out a negative 1 and get 16t squared minus 19t and plus 3. It just makes your factoring process a little easier. So now I know that I've got a positive here, so I know it's a negative-negative combination. So let's see, I need a 19. So 1 times 16 and 1 times 3. I think it's going to look good right off the bat there, because this is going to give me a 3 and a 16, which will add up to 19, especially if I make them both negative. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and factor this out. I've got 0 equals, keep the negative 1 in front. We've got a 1, 16, 1, 3 combo, so I have 1t and 16t. I have a 1 and 3 on the backside, and we already know they're both negatives, okay? So now in this case here, 0 equals negative 1, no good, throw it out. 0 equals t or 1t or t minus 1, and 0 equals 16t minus 3. So now I'm going to add the 1 over and get 1 second. I'm going to add the 3 here and then divide by the 16. So in this case, I get 3/16. Okay, so here's a problem. We have 2 positive answers here. How do you know which one is the answer? Okay, so back up here on my picture, what we really need to think about is when this thing is jumping up in the air, it crosses, so like if I just draw a random line here, this is my 3-foot line, okay? It crosses 3 feet here when it first jumps up, and then it lands on the 3 feet here. So that's why we have 2 positive answers, is it hits it on the way up, and then it goes up, 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 and then hits it down, right? So it's here, goes up, 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 comes down, hits him right here, 3 feet above ground. So he's actually passed the 3-foot part twice, okay? So the 3/16? The 3/16 is actually this first guy right here. This is going to be your 1 second. So which one of these would be your answer on when it lands? 1 second is when it lands. 3/16 is when it goes, just jumps up into the air and hits the 3 feet. So for right now, this is going to be our answer. Okay? All right. Next one, last one here. Ben dives 36-foot platform. Okay, they've already got the 36 in right here for you, so you don't need to mess with that. Okay. How long will it take Ben to reach the water? Hint, think about water. The height of the water of what you're jumping into should hopefully be 0. That should be your starting point. So what we're basically trying to get you to do is just plug 0 in here for your h value. You get negative 16t squared plus 14t plus 36. Now, you now know what a lot of this means. The negative 16 just has to do with gravity. This right here is your velocity. This right here is your h sub 0 or your c value, which is your start height. And then this right here would be your finish height. Okay, so you actually know what all those numbers mean. All right, so let's go ahead and factor by pulling out a GCF here. Now again, I'm going to make my first number there positive, so I'm going to pull out a negative 2 in this case. And I'm going to get 8t squared minus 7t minus 18. All right, so now I need to start a list here. 1 times 8, 2 times 4, 1 times 18, 2 times 9, and 3 times 6. Okay, so now we're starting our inside-outside combination here until we find a -7. Now remember, it's positive negative, so we should be subtracting. Okay, and I think I might have spotted one that works here. Let's see. So if I take 1 times 9, I get 9. And then 8 times 2 is 16. And then if I make that a negative, I get my -7. So I have a 1, 8, 2, 9 combo here. So I've got 0 equals, keep the -2 out front, 1t and 8t. I've got a 2 and a 9. And now we know we want the 16 right here in the middle to be negative. So I'm going to go ahead and put my negative right here, my positive here. So now set each part equal to 0. Again, throw this first guy out because there's no variable involved. And then we've got 1t minus 2 and 8t plus 9. So add the 2 over. So 2 equals 1t, or just t. Here I'm going to subtract the 9 over and then divide and get -9/8. Now again, this answer is not going to make sense. So our only option here is 2 seconds. Okay, and that concludes your answer key.